Everyone always talks about the end result, the success, the team, the lifestyle, but no one warns you about the beginning. The lonely grind, the self-doubt, the pressure to keep going when nothing's working yet. In this episode, we break down what it really takes to build something valuable. When no one's clapping, when setbacks hit hard, and when staying hungry feels harder than ever. Whether you're building something from scratch or trying to lead without the title, today we're sharing the raw lessons of how to move the needle in the right direction. Let's get into it.
I remember, I'll tell you my first day. I'll tell you my first day starting the business. For context for people, I took over an old squash court and I built it into a gym. Okay, so the reason why I took over an old squash court, because I was 22 years old at the time and I couldn't get a lease to a large facility. Okay, so there was a squash court that was running out of business. And I had $30,000. You can't buy gym equipment for $30,000. They had no gym equipment. I can't get a lease as a 22-year-old without any experience. So by me buying somebody else's business problem, they already had the lease of the place and the landlord had no say. I sort of just moved in as the other guy moved out. So I moved in at 6 a.m. The other guy gave me like a 2-hour rundown of how their system works or booking system works. It was out by 8 a.m. And he called in for a staff meeting. I think he had like 2 or 3 casual employees at the time. I was like, hey, I'm Wayne. Hey. I was like 2 years older than them all, 3, 4 years older than them all. He left. And I'm sitting there going, fuck, I don't know what to do. How do you make money? Like, well, do people just come in and pay? And there were like, people playing squash and there was like one room off aerobics, like a couple of dumbbells. One guy was in there doing some dumbbells and I went in and I just sort of said, hey, Tim, my name is Wayne. I'm the new owner of this business. Nice to meet you. Hey, nice to meet you. That was my first day. And I had no clue about like what people just show up tomorrow and then pay for a booking for a squash court. And then when the rent comes, I pay the rent. How do you guys get paid? It was, what the hell?
Yeah.
Yep. And then, yeah, it really, I say 2 weeks because it took about 2 weeks for me to then decide to start my own business. Essentially, it was that squash court. It took me 2 weeks to rebrand it to a gym and to slowly replace it with gym equipment. I had to go and buy secondhand gym equipment to then go and fight for the same customers. But I tried to renovate the damn place myself. And I thought I could just do the floors of the place in 2 weeks. In 2 days. It was over a weekend. What the fuck? I didn't know how to put together floors. I just realized how tough everything was. Like when you're young, you think that you're so capable, you're delusional with the abilities that you have, especially if you're ambitious. You probably never thought things were easy, but you couldn't see where the hard was. But when you jump in, you realize, oh my God, I am in for some work. So that first 2 weeks was, you don't even have time. Like I was no money to pay people. So I was waking up for contests. I didn't have a car at the time. I was just riding a little motorbike to get around. So there's no 24 hours gym at the time. So we open it at 6 a.m. and close at 10 p.m. So I'd had to wake up at 5 a.m. to get on my motorbike. It was winter in the rain to ride to the gym to open up half asleep. I've been always late. Customers waiting at the front door. And sit there all day because can't afford to pay anyone. Can't afford to train myself. Can't afford to eat. And close up the gym at 10 p.m., put on the wet gear that I just rode to the gym with, and then go back home and get back home at like 11 p.m. to have breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And sleep and wake up at like 4 a.m. to do it all over again. That went on for like nonstop for the first 6 months. And you realize, this whole like, it's so tough to start a business, it's really hard. That doesn't hit you until things are already good. When things are really good, you go, holy crap, how did I even do this? So that's what I mean by the first 2 weeks that it hit me because what the hell? I got to do all you got no choice. I don't want to say that depression is a privilege, but when you're when you're always doing stuff, you honestly, during that time, I had no time to even think about how hard it was until afterwards. So that gives you a bit of context. It wasn't like one day.
Yeah.
In that first few months, you realize this is hard, that's hard, everything was hard.
So you're treading water effectively.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm getting a little bit of an image of instead of dipping your toe into the water, you just jumped right in and didn't realize how cold it was. And all of a sudden you're shivering trying to warm up. You're just
yes. But
let's
the thing
get above
is, right,
water.
Correct. Or actually, it was not like, okay, that's a good analogy, all right? So instead of jumping in, but, oh, whoa, it's so cold. No, it's more like you're jumping, you're drowning, right? And then you go,
You're
crap.
fighting for your life.
The cold is not even, the biggest problem is that you're drowning.
Yeah.
The fact that it's cold, you don't even think about
You're
it.
not even think. Okay, yeah.
You know, that's my thing. It's like all you want to do is get to shore.
Just
you
fighting.
Jump in,
Yeah.
you think this is going to be fun. Oh, the water's probably really cold, right? You jump in, you go, crap, I'm actually drowning. Ugh. So you swim to the shore and then you get up on shore. Maybe, I don't know, some people take them a few months. Sometimes it takes years. And you get up and you go, fuck, that was really cold. Because afterwards you realize, oh, that was really hard. But you were actually just barely surviving.
Do you think you can conceptualize how difficult something's going to be before you do it?
No. It's like, we were just talking about this. It's like having kids, right?
Yeah.
I don't have a kid yet. I'm hopefully on my way to having my first kid soon. But hopefully I'm not. No, I'm not having my first kid yet. I'm just saying hopefully. But I was just having a chat with another business owner who's, just had his third kid, and he was telling me, mate, give me a call when things get hard. So I think I'm only using that example because a lot of people have kids, so they can probably relate to that. If you ask them, did you know what you were in for? I probably say that most people think that, yeah, I thought it was going to be like hard, or like I think that things were going to change. I didn't know how that was going to look like.
But you can't prepare for it, can you?
You can
read a few books and whatever, but once it hits, you're like, oh, okay, this is hard.
You probably can't. I mean, because every kid's different, every family's different. So your struggles are probably not going to be 100% the same as somebody else's. So they probably can't prepare you 100%, but you could learn. Hopefully people can learn a bit from this and just realize, oh, I guess be ready for the unpreparable situation. So just don't commit or don't overcommit, maybe.
Yeah, I get you. In those early beginning stages, what is the key takeaway that you felt benefited you the most?
This is probably not, some of them are probably not by choice, okay? One was I really loved the topic. Like I loved the gym. It wasn't from a place of lacking. It wasn't like I got in to make $1 million and now I'm at 1,000, so I still have how many 100 more thousand to go. It was that I wanted to create a gym where people could get strong while remaining approachable. I found it hard personally as a kid to get strong, and I was a timid kid, so I was always intimidated by other people. So I wanted a place that I could go to. So that meaning was very strong for me. So whatever that I was doing was really hard. It made it a lot more bearable when I realized what I was doing was meaningful. I could imagine if I did this business, if I was doing like a food business where not that it's bad, but I wasn't that passionate about the topic. I think, in like 6 months, I'd be like, why am I even doing this? Because I set buy to a stable income for this.
Yeah, right. Yep.
And the thing is, it's not 6 months. I paid to work for the first 4 years, right? So if you didn't love the topic, you'd be like, why am I even doing this? When the other job is waiting for me, I can get paid tomorrow. So yeah, one thing that if it comes down to one thing, it would be because I love the topic.
It's like a big enough why can survive almost anyhow. So if you have meaning to what you're doing or enough love and burning desire to get it done.
Yeah.
And you see that you're making an impact as well. I feel like that's a massive difference.
Yeah, that didn't come until later. It didn't really come until months, maybe a year in.
Yeah.
Or at least I didn't feel like I was getting any of the recognition or I didn't get it. Nobody clapping for you until later on. But I think most people, if I'm being honest, there was no way that you would have joined that gym for value purposes at that time. You had nothing. I mean, I barely had anything that worked in the gym. So people only signed up because they put up with it because of the convenience, because they live there. And also they're willing to put up with it because they saw how hard this kid was working on it. So I guess that is a way of people trying to support.
I will say, because I joined up, not maybe like, I don't even know how long it was open for, maybe 6 months.
Yeah, so
maybe
you would have, in the first year for sure.
First year for sure.
Yeah.
And I I didn't ever see it as like, oh, this is like not worth the money or anything like that.
Oh, wow. Okay,
But
so that's a
more,
bit-
I was like, this feels like an underdog story. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know how else
okay.
to describe it. I feel
Yeah.
like I've been to other gyms and they're too polished. This has got some soul in it.
I reckon so many people felt that way. And the funny thing, right, is you say this now, as a business owner, I'd feel, I mean, I can say this now because times have passed. I don't think people go to training day now because they're the underdog. I mean,
No.
maybe they do. I don't know.
Maybe.
But back then, if you had told me this, I would have felt ashamed.
Oh, okay, right.
Yeah, at the time, I would have felt like, why are you giving me handouts for? You know, I would felt like I want to add value to people's lives. Why are people coming to me because they feel sorry for me? I know that's not why you did it, but at the time, if somebody said this to me, I would have felt like that because I think I knew it deep inside. But the truth is, that's actually the advantage when you start the business because the big businesses can't do this. And when you have that underdog story, you're adding value to people's life in a way that they want to be a part of that story, but you don't see it while you're in it because you think it's about you, your business. You're not actually seeing a lot of the value that you're adding to other people in that time. You just want to do a good job. You thought it was all about you. But now coming back to it, I can't even, I mean, training that hopefully still comes across as something that's very personal and stuff, but we're on as big of an underdog as we were, 12 years ago. So I definitely, looking back at it, I would have embraced it a bit more.
Right, okay.
Now I look at it as like, oh man, why were you ashamed of that?
Yeah,
you
right.
should have
Own
embraced it a lot
Yeah.
more. Yeah.
Well, what advice do you have to someone who is currently in that stage of feeling like an underdog and they feel a little embarrassed that they're playing the comparison game and they're thinking, geez, I don't want pity, I don't want misery, I want to be someone of value?
I would say fast forward. So think fast forward. Think in 10 years, your business is going to be very successful. How much would you cherish this time right now? And it is going to be an underdog story if you believe it. And if you're a customer, wouldn't you want to be a part of this? Like, wouldn't you want to be the guy that bought the first Apple computer? Because to just go and say that I was that guy, that I was there from the beginning.
Yeah.
So my advice would be that don't be ashamed of that period. It's not about you as much as you would feel. I think any responsible person, if you're telling them, hey, I'm only paying you to support you, they feel a little guilty about this. Any sensible person might feel like, oh, I want to be able to do a good job to earn that money. But in the beginning, you can't expect yourself to just know everything. So own that period. It's okay to receive other people's help as long as you give it back.
I get you. Yeah, it can be looked at a beneficial thing because I feel like most people could remember a time where they were a first adopter, whether it was they found a musician first, they found a YouTuber that had only for some reason 1,000 views and you were like, wow, why does this person have 1,000 views? Or you ran into a business or a cafe and you're one of the first people there. And you fast forward in a year and you're like, well, I was there from day dot and now they are at the Grammys or now their business is packed, their business is booming. Now the YouTuber has 100,000 subscribers and you're like, whoa, this is sick. So I think there is benefit there of being the underdog. People want to find these people. They want to be the first people to find it and they will support. They'll be like your diehard supporters, I feel. Like I'm sure you probably still have members that are still at the gym after 12 years that are still as passionate as they were the first time they went in the door.
That's exactly right. That's exactly what I'm saying. It's just that when you're in that day one, you don't think what you're going to be like in 10, 12 years time.
Yeah.
So you don't even acknowledge how much you can actually add value to. I mean, how many of your followers would be like, oh man, that would feel so happy that I was there in the beginning.
Yeah,
How many of them felt?
I have contact with a few of them. Yeah, it's crazy.
But that's great. It really is. Like I remember following certain people that I thought was, oh man, this guy's gonna make it. And then I followed them, and then they do make it.
Yeah.
Then you go, oh, I knew it.
I knew it. I called it. Yeah,
Sometimes you just want that recognition and be like, hey, thanks for being there in the beginning.
Legit. Yeah.
But that makes me feel good. It's just in the very beginning, you aren't thinking, no one's really sure, that where they're going to be in the future because of that. You have self-doubt and you start to not see this as an advantage that you have now. And you try and be big and professional when you should really be trying to be small and talk to your customers.
Yeah, relatable.
That's the advantage.
Yeah.
That's what people want. I say my advice would be like, make the most of that because if you become successful, you're going to lose this. Whatever this period is going to be gone.
Yeah, you can focus on building depth as opposed to width because at some point, if you do make it, you're not going to have the ability to do depth.
Yeah.
So while you're there, really enjoy the present moment of who is around, who's supporting you, and really put a big spotlight on that and be like, thank you guys so much. Because, fingers crossed you do make some sort of progress, some long-term progress, and you won't have the ability to do that anymore. You'll lose the chance. So make the most of it now while you're in that stage.
Yeah, I wish I would have done a lot more of that back then. I wish I would just thanked people a lot more. The people that, instead of feeling bad for receiving their gifts and receiving their support, just receive it and thank you and then acknowledge, so they use that as motivation to get a little better because you're actually doing it for them now.
Yeah.
So that's one, I would say one thing that if I were to do differently, I'd go back and embrace that a bit more.
Okay. Going back, so you said you ran into, I suppose you started up something that was already a passion of yours, the gym. You fell in love with the gym at an early age, ended up starting a business in that industry, and the passion kind of developed over time, I'd imagine. Do you see passion as like a prerequisite to getting a successful business or achievement in any endeavor, or is it more of a secondary thing to discipline and you don't necessarily have to be passionate about what you're doing to be successful?
First part question, I definitely don't think you can, my thoughts, I don't think you can find passion like just, I like the taste of this energy drink. Oh, I found my passion or something. Like it's not like, it's not like that.
Yeah.
I think passion comes from something that you eventually get very good at. And to get good at something, you have to go through a lot of turmoil and being bad at it. And the repetition of that, I think, is when you become passionate about something. You definitely can find an interest. And that interest, I think any interest can turn into a passion. I would say that I was passionate about the gym even when I started the business, but that passion wasn't developed overnight. It was something that gave me purpose throughout my teenage years. That took probably years to build. But even that, I got more passionate about this industry after I started the business, because it's not just about my own training anymore. It became the members, the staff members, the community became so much more, and you learn there's all that other areas to this passion. I'm come from a place where I had the passion on the thing that I was working on. And I just think that if I didn't have the passion for it, it would get so hard. I don't know if I'll be able to endure as much like the hardships and be able to stick with it with the same enthusiasm, which is required for success. I'm not saying that you need to have passion to be successful, but I would have found it really hard. However, I would say though, is I don't think you need to have the passion for something like you're willing to bloody die for something before you start something, because that passion builds as you're doing it. So I'll definitely say you don't need to be that passionate about a topic before you start something.
Yeah.
That passion builds as you build the thing. But I do think that it'll be very hard for you to build anything valuable without having some sort of passion for the topic.
What's your advice to someone who feels like they don't have their passion then?
I think they'd have an interest. I'd ask them, what are you interested in? There's probably like 10 things they're interested in. I'll probably just pick one. I don't even think it matters. Well, just if they're all equal, if all 10 things, that probably won't be 10, likely will be 3 things that comes to mind that they're interested in. Okay, then you can go, if you're interested in these, then you look at the Japanese ikigai thing, where it's like what the world is willing to pay you for. What are you actually good at doing out of these 3 interests? What what's the third one? I can't remember what the third one is. What your interest? They already answered one. Sorry, the interest is already you like it. You like what you're doing. You're interested in this topic. You're actually good at it. And the 3, the world needs it. Therefore, they will pay you for it. And then pick the one that is more. Share more of these. Pick the one that is the highest in all of these 3 factors. I don't think that you need to overthink it. I think people overthink these days a bit too much. I have so many interests, so many options, so many podcasts.
Rather than getting started.
Anything, man. Like for you could have started your channel for either fitness or video. I mean, or both. I mean, it doesn't really matter. Like you could have made a travel channel. You could have made could have been a PT. I don't know. So there's probably heaps of things that you could do along your interests.
Start in the right direction to build skills, I feel, because it doesn't necessarily have to come with upfront cost. I feel like people look at it that way. As if, well, if I'm going to start a business or start XYZ, it's going to require a lot of upfront investment, whether it be money or time.
Mhm.
And so they're always worried they're going to waste it. And so they waste it anyway, procrastinating. I feel like it's just getting your foot, taking one step in front of the other, and
Yeah.
knowing that slight deviations, if you do need to make them, it's going to be fine as long as you're still moving in a general direction. Just getting that first step is so important.
Absolutely. I think we're fortunate in the fact that we were young,
Mm.
and we're also fortunate 10 years ago that social media wasn't as advanced as to what it is today. I think we would have been exposed to a lot more distractions and options. You would have felt like, I could do this, I could do this.
Yeah, 100%.
How, you know?
Well, tell me about that. When you were younger, starting the business at 22, do you think if you had have not jumped in at that time, would you have ever?
Yeah, it's a hard question. It would have been harder. I wouldn't say that I would have never done it. I feel like, well, define never. I might have waited another year or two. I might have started another job and then realized this is still my calling. I might still come back to this. I do think, I mean, balance. It's the thing of life. You know, have the right balance, and it's not about radical extremes. But I do remember, gym was my thing growing up. Like, it was my outlet. So even out of high school, I just thought this was always my thing. People in the gym changed my life in so many ways. But I kind of delayed it. You know, the older people around you kind of say, find a real job, go and study this. And I had a big paradigm shift during that period of my life that made me realize, all right, the unfortunate things in my life should make my life better, not worse. So I'm not going to just do the gym thing in case it was just an escape route when I had no other opportunities. I'm going to make sure it's actually something I'm passionate about. How do I test that? My test was like, let's just see if I can endure doing a job that I do not like for like 2 years. If I could, then perhaps I could say that I really, really have a passion for this. So then I went to university, as what most kids my age did, studied something completely different. I studied business, marketing, completely different to my passion. Out of it, I landed an internship, which I then worked like 2 years for, and then had a lot of other jobs in between that as well. So I actually delayed it for more than 2 years. I had this want when I was like 16, 17, 18, and I delayed it till I was almost 23. But then I decided to take action. So if you say, would I have ever taken action? I've probably done it at 24, 25, 26, maybe. But if you were telling me now, yeah, it will be so much harder now. When you're older, you're much more aware of things that could go wrong, for one.
Yeah.
You don't have the gift of that ignorance anymore. I don't have kids yet, but I'm married. So I can imagine it'd be worse with kids. You have other responsibilities. You get a mortgage. When you have things you have to pay. And it's just overall a lot harder to make mistakes when you are 35. You're supposed to be seen as a responsible person that can make good calls. So it'd definitely be harder. I can't tell you whether I can or I wouldn't, but yeah, 100% harder.
Yeah, it's impossible to tell, but
It's possible to tell. But
obviously
yeah,
I feel like the longer you delay, the more likely, or your life could have taken a completely different change.
could have. Yeah.
I suppose, curious, what weight do you put in intuition when you were younger, and what weight do you put in it now?
I was a lot more intuitive when I was younger. So at that time, I did it because it just felt like the right
right.
thing to do.
Yeah.
The world can't be that bad. I can do this.
Yeah.
As you get older, as you get smarter, you kind of lose a lot of that naivety.
The natural gut, the trusting.
You still have it, but it's just a lot more consideration. I'm not saying that, like, man, people, Walt Disney started Disney when he was in his 50s or something like that.
Yeah.
So, it happens, but I just, from a maturity standpoint, I think a lot of younger people take that lack of knowledge and ignorance as really a downside in the beginning. And I think when people start a business, like kids these days, trying to be like, 22-year-old life coaches or like 22-year-old experts, first of all, I don't think you can be. Second of all, you don't need to be that. That will never at 22 be what people pay you for. You go out there with your the boldness of the passion, and anybody that is 3 or 4 years older than you would understand oh, I think this kid's got something. Not because you know something, but because you truly believe something. When you're younger, you don't acknowledge that. You think that, oh, I'm smart, or I'm like, I'm really good at this. No, it's actually not that. It's your ability to just be able to commit. It will be 100% harder to do when you're older. So if you're in your 20s and you're in a position to, and you genuinely have a passion, been thinking about it, business is definitely not suitable for everyone. If you want to give it a crack, give it a crack.
Yeah. So when the opportunity arises, don't shy away from it.
If it's there, that's right. Yeah.
Because it is, you need the opportunity as well. You can't, it's hard to, I suppose now more than ever, you can create your own opportunities, which is good. So whenever you have that intuitive feeling, you could always move in a direction of your interests and your passions, especially in the content space. But business is a lot harder. I suppose you kind of had the perfect recipe where you found this place where you're like, all right, no one else is going to really give 22-year-old a shot, but I could take over this guy's problem and try and find a solution.
Well, yeah, I was fortunate in that case.
Yeah.
Like the universe spoke to me in so many. I had 30,000 saved up. This guy was asking for like 40 grand, and I negotiated down to like 30. I was like, what are the chances? And the suburb, Burwood is a suburb. The suburb was also what I resonated with. Growing up, I went to a school in the suburb of Burwood, but not even in the city, in the completely different states that I was really badly bullied and had really bad experiences with. And I took that. I was like, universe is giving me a sign. It's, I don't know, bullshit.
Giving
sign.
you a chance.
Might have been a luck. I don't know, whatever you believe. But my thing is like, it's probably delusional, but that delusion is what sort of got me, spark something. But you could say, somebody could come back, pessimist might say that, if you started a business when you're 30, you probably would have built a bigger empire by now because you'd be smarter. Yeah, I can't argue with this.
You never know, yeah.
The point is, you never know. All I'm saying is, when you're young and ignorant, sure, that's a disadvantage, but you may as well focus on the good things. Good things is that you are in a position to be forgiven for mistakes. You can afford to make a lot of mistakes at that age.
Life is non-linear, especially in a progress factor. If you're trying to get successful or achieve anything in life, even your career, even just a standard career, it's going to be non-linear. You're going to make a lot of progress, like you're going to get a promotion at one stage, and then it's going to feel like you're not making any progress. The gym as well, it's non-linear. You can't make progress forever. There has to be peaks and valleys. So when you experience these valleys, or more so when things go out of your control, you experience some sort of setback, what's your advice to deal with it?
So many things, examples sort of come to mind. I'll use the most recent one, probably the most relatable, and that was that lockdown period. I don't want to keep talking about the lockdown period, but it was that pandemic area where gyms in Australia, in Melbourne, we got locked out for like 2 years. So essentially, talking about a setback, that's a setback.
And totally out of your control as well.
Right. And you can say, I'm not saying I have no agency, but damn it, man. Like, we weren't allowed to open.
Yeah.
And I wasn't the person that spread the disease, and now I'm paying for this.
Yeah.
So that was a massive setback. I sold my house at the time to save the business. There's so many sacrifices made during that period. It's really fresh because I was already 30, I think. I was 30 years old, 31, 30 years old. And I recall making this Instagram post on my personal page where there was like 30 followers at the time. I'm never the one to sulk, man. I hate to be the one that sulks. And it was following an email from the accountant that we share. He emailed me, hey Wayne, here's the bad statement. And I think in that quarter, it's already been like 2 years of losses, right? And that one quarter was another, $80,000 of loss in that one quarter. Because I still had to pay all the expenses.
Yep.
And I've already just sold my house. And I just experienced this moment of like, just fuck this, man. And then the premier, the state premier at the time, we just kept announcing, like, you can't open. Fucking brothels.
Delay, yeah.
They open brothels before they open our industry. Man, I'm not going to question all of this decision.
Just slap in the face.
Damn it, man. I felt like I had no purpose. In that 2 year period, I didn't go out for lunch, for dinner, nothing. Not because like I wasn't, one is because financially, both my missus was made redundant as well from her job. It wasn't just the money thing. It was like I felt purposeless, valueless. Like I could walk on the street and I felt like I had no value. Somebody else might be an IT person. You in lockdown had value. People say I work from home. I had so much envy for those people because I couldn't do anything. The only reason I could even pay my staff members is because of the government JobKeeper scheme that they reimburse us. That was but they were essentially being paid for nothing. And I'm a person of purpose. So I felt like, I'm 30, man. I'm 31. I made all these sacrifices and I could have made more money now if I'm doing a damn job. And things are starting to go well finally. And I get shut down because of something that I had no control over. This is bullshit. So I went on my Instagram. I had this rant of just how much money I've lost, just the rant. And then I got so embarrassed and I went and deleted it.
How long was it up for?
Like 2 days.
Okay,
like some people called me. I was like, dude, are you all right?
Oh.
I was like, no, I'm not.
No.
I'm actually having a really tough time.
Damn.
Had a bit of a sook, had a few cries. And then I was physically sick as well. Stress. I didn't know you could get sick from stress. I don't know what it was. Okay. I think, but those were the times that you're tested, huh? Those are the times you go, it's really hard at the time for to see that I'm already motivated at the time. I'm mature. I'm the one to tell other people, hey, get over yourself. You know what I mean? Like things get hard. Get over it.
Yeah.
It's so hard telling yourself this when you're making the sacrifices. I don't know what it was that told me to start reading. I'm just mindlessly scrolling on socials, and this is one person. I was like, it was said, read some books. It's not about every page that you read. It's sometimes that you might take like 1,000 books to find one that changes your life. I'm going, I fucking hate reading, and I'm always like, nobody knows my position. You know, they don't know why should I listen to them? They don't know where I come from. All these authors, I don't know them. I'm like, all right, man, I'll read. I picked up one book to read. It was okay. Didn't really like it that much. And I'm like, I had nothing to do anyways. And I read the second book and the third book. And I think about 3, 4, 5 books. And I realized I'm learning something that I did not know before. Something very small. Something about just management, structures, and businesses. It's not so much of the knowledge that was learned, but the fact that I could learn it. And it was still in lockdown. I still couldn't operate my business. Then what you found me doing is I start to like piece together a weightlifting platform in my garage. You couldn't even go to the gym. I couldn't even go to my own gym to train. And I started lifting weights in that little garage. And I started to realize I started this business. That was a big realization. I didn't get put in this situation. I got reminded the fact that I have agency. So book reading made me realize, oh, I got more knowledge. Wait, you wanted to start this business to inspire people to get strong while remaining approachable. What are you crying about? You chose this. So that was very important because it wasn't from a place of lacking. It was from a place of like, I want to do this. And then it became like when I realized that I could still make a difference, I just kept reading. And I read like 30 books in that 1 year, kept training at home while reading. My day became training and reading, training and reading, just that. And while other people are all stressing out about like when we're coming out of lockdown, being thrown around, reactive to whatever the government was announcing, I felt like I was like collecting bullets. I felt like I was just banking stuff. And I think it was one day they realized, they were like, we're going to open up. We're going to open up, half open. Like you're going to have all these rules. I wasn't even paying attention to that. I just wrote the date down. And I was like, okay, I got all this stuff I'm going to implement. I can't wait. And I started organizing meetings. And it was so funny. They have weird rules. They said you can't meet in a public place, but you can have 10 friends over at your house. Remember that rule?
Yeah.
And I was like, okay.
So you should have a gathering.
I'm going to invite five people, my managers, to my house as a gathering. So I invited them to the house, and then we had a good meeting, and I learned about goal setting, learned about all of this, wrote this stuff on the board. And all of a sudden, everyone felt like we're ready. Everyone's just like on the mark, waiting to like take off when the gunshot fires. And when that happened, it was like no emotion. It was just, here's what to do. And then, 2 years later, it changed everything, changed the business. We've never been as successful as we were as if we kept going the same trajectory. So that's a major setback that reshaped a lot of stuff.
Okay, well, let me give you from what I can see about what was beneficial there.
Yeah.
First major setback. You had minor setbacks more so, but this was the first major multi-year, completely out of your control, at least in the beginning from your viewpoint. Don't be so afraid of letting it get to you. I feel like some people want to harden up and be like non-reactive. I'm just going to tackle this head on. Let your emotions out. Give yourself like a little period to cry about it or kick the wall, kick the bin, get it all out.
Yeah.
And then realize that you need to look for solutions. You can't keep harboring on about this forever. Solution oriented, develop agency and realize I've got lemons. How do I make lemonade? And then start putting it together.
That's a really good summary of what you just said. That's kind of what happened. I actually don't think you can skip these stages.
Especially in your first one. If it's your first major setback and you're like, damn.
Yeah.
Like you can't just collectively shell up and try to take it. You got to let your emotions.
No, I just want like listeners to just understand. Like it feels terrible at the time.
Oh yeah.
It just feels so unfair, man. Like I know people have bigger problems. I sacrificed a lot to do this business. You know, it's been I started in 2012. It's been 8 years at this point. And I don't go to parties. don't even have any friends. I only thing I have is a house that I bought because of when you commit your life to business, you have I don't know, some financial stability. Hopefully that's sort of all I wanted. You had to like let go of that as well. For what at the end, you know? So yeah, you're right. How can you not suck about this?
Yeah.
It was really, now if it would happen again, I probably, because I've endured it once and you go, yeah, okay, this kind of hurt as much as the first time, but at least I know what it feels like. But yeah, anything that is happening, because it's, you know, something is hard or not is relative. It was tough for me at the time. You got to let yourself feel it's okay. It is all right, yeah. So if you don't feel it, how are you supposed to, what is that saying? You have to feel the pain to heal a wound or something?
Okay.
Yeah.
Never heard of that.
I definitely think you have to suck about it, cry about it, go through all that period.
Give yourself some time. Like if it needs to be a week, it needs to be a week. If it's 2 or 3 days, kick the shit and cry about it and get it all out. Write it down. Write a hate letter. Make a post.
Yeah.
Whatever needs to happen.
You can delete it later if you want.
Yeah, you can always delete it. You can always delete it. Just write it and then put it in your scheduled post or something and be like, I'll think about posting this. And then in 3 days, if you still want to post it.
This is why I don't know if Kobe Bryant fans, most people probably won't relate to this, but Kobe fans would know when he snapped his Achilles, right? He had a vent on Facebook. He didn't delete it.
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
I had one of those vents and I was so ashamed of it later. I was like, wait, you're such a victim. Why are you playing the victim? But the post, I loved it. This is why we're having one of our gym walls written down. It was like, this is bullshit. You know, all this work done on a step that I've taken 1,000,000 times. How have I got an injury like this? 35. How am I supposed to come back from this? And then he comes back and he realizes, you know, reality sinks in that there are much worse things than a snapped Achilles tendon. And that was like, for me, it was like, you know, at least I had a house to sell. At least I'm still here. I'm alive. I have a roof over my head. There are worse things.
Yeah, but sometimes you need that to reach that perspective. I feel like people just try and skip that step or just don't even think about it and consider it.
I think in our culture, I'm guilty for this, right? Is we force people to just see the positive.
Yeah.
Be like, hey man, like you it was so different because somebody told me, well, at least you have a house. When I told them the story, at least you have one to sell.
Yeah.
Oh my God, you know, I got so angry. But the funny thing is when you came to that conclusion yourself, you realize, oh, at least I had to.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
You have to come to it yourself.
Yeah. You don't want someone else when you're venting and trying to, like, that's not important.
Yeah,
right?
Just listen.
The important thing is I'm venting. I'm getting it out. Yeah. Yeah, I don't think people do enough of that. And I truly wish that I did more of that. I think I really jumped, especially when COVID hit, straight into like positivity. I'm like, guys, don't worry about it. Like we'll be out and you got to stay positive and I'm going to do some workouts from home and all this stuff and it's going to be great. But really, I'm like, I'm pissed.
Yeah.
In my heart of hearts, I'm like, I'm pissed, man. I'm 22, 23, got a lot of youth. I've got a lot of ambition, got a lot of like, this is the time where I'm really feeling like, okay, I'm making a ton of progress. And this is the time where I've now started working with companies like Gymshark and whatnot.
Oh, that was
and
nice.
I know what happens when you start working with companies. You get to do cool things.
Yeah.
Like you get to meet fans and go do this stuff and travel and all this. And then COVID hits.
Yeah.
And in my heart, I'm like, oh yeah, of course. Great timing. But I never went out there and was like, I'm actually pissed. I'm pissed. I'm not. I never did that process, and I do regret it, to be honest. I probably needed to get that out.
Let me give you this, and I hope the audience appreciate this little segue here. This is two masculine figures talking.
Yeah.
when I have a fight with my missus, it's just I'm the problem solver.
Mm.
You know, like most men, you try and solve problems. But this, you know how you said positivity, right?
Mm.
When we were putting together my company's values, this was during this, I decided to restructure everything, including our values.
Yeah.
Positivity has always been one of my values. So I was like, it's got to be the company's values, right? So I wanted to put that in there. And I was trying to lead the company. Okay, so I was being honest before with how I felt having a sook at home, and my wife knows how much I was sooking at the time. But when I'm out, you know, having Zoom calls, everybody, you know, get tears out the way and sort of just like, all right, everyone, how's your week?
Mm.
You know what's good about this? I reckon we'll lose like 10 competitors coming out of this. You know, the job would be so much easier when we come out.
Yeah.
You sort of, you know, with, you know, that mask, smiling mask, but you're crying behind the scenes.
Yeah.
I thought I was doing a great job doing that. And I think that most leaders would agree that this is what you should do during this time, right? I had a piece of feedback for one of our trainers, female trainers at the time, who was very well known for her empathy. And she said, Wayne, I wish you can show a lot more empathy when you're leading the team. I was like, the fuck you mean showing a lot of empathy? I'm the one that's, you know what I mean? Like, you guys getting paid, I'm the one that... So then I stopped to think, I'm like, okay, you guys are also having a tough time.
Yeah, they're all a lot of young kids.
And forget who's suffering more for a second, because I was comparing. I was like, I had to pay your wages. I have to pay, you don't have to pay rent. So forget that for a second. Why are you comparing? Everyone is suffering. It's just more or less, right? What do you mean by, like, what does she mean by I didn't have enough sensitivity or empathy? As in, like, wait, acknowledge the hardship first before you try to solve it. So this is where we changed our value from positivity to optimism. And I think the difference is optimism is you come out and you acknowledge the hard times while you commit to a better outcome. So it was one change. It was just coming out and being like, guys, tough week, eh? Everybody having a tough week? Yeah, me too. But you know what? We're going to come out better. Like that's all it was. People just wanted that time to sort of soak and reflect. I thought I needed it. Funny thing is I needed it at home. And it helped when people let me soak so I can come to my conclusions. But I wasn't giving other people that
ability to grieve. And
so
it feels like, not that I'm a linguistic expert or something, but it feels like positivity is very current and optimism's future. Like you're optimistic about coming out the other side of whatever's going on, whether it's good at the moment or bad at the moment. You've got an optimistic view of the world and where you're going, but positivity is like right now. I'm positive about it right now. Like even if it's terrible, if there's a house fire and you're just like, oh, this will be fine. It's all good. This is great, guys. Like you're not letting people grieve or really experience reality for their own selves.
Yeah, I think it's because even at the time I thought it was about me. I thought I was the only one that's suffering. I thought I was supposed to come out and be tough. But if you think it's not about you, other people are suffering, you come out, it actually makes it a lot easier for you to deal with and get through it when you realize you're doing this for other people. But yeah, so the segue is that, when things get hard, especially males, traditional males, like we always think like Goggins, who's going to carry the boat? I'm that guy. But dude, I think like, you know, nurture, like that nurture that we lack so much now is what actually gives us a lot of the resilience, you know, the comfort. You have to have that before you focus. You got to have a sook. When I was a kid, I was complaining about being bullied at school, this and that. You know, a family member tell me, "Oh, just focus on the positive." I hated that.
Yeah, 100%.
But the ones that come
it's
out,
like I'm telling you, this is bad. Exactly. What do you mean focus on the positive?
Yeah,
there's bad things happening.
Are you listening? You think? Are you listening to me?
Yeah, 100%. I've had that experience.
Yeah. So then I realized I was doing that.
Right. Got you.
Yeah, that's definitely. So all these to go back on your point, it's really good that you mentioned that you got to acknowledge that first.
Well, you did say that you were so stressed that you fell ill. You didn't know that you could get sick from being stressed. Fast forwarding to now, so this has been about 5 years. What have you learned about balancing ambition with your personal well-being?
Oh man, fuck, this is a question that I want to answer really well, and I hope I can give a really good answer for this. I think I have a really good answer for this. This is like my realization for the past year, my biggest lesson. my father that I've never had a relationship with taught me this when he died, and I wasn't even there. This is what I learned. Growing up, I thought I went through some sort of trauma. I probably did. If you, I don't know, I'm not comparing, but if you draw a line of average, I was probably on the higher end of this immigrant family. I was here from, I came to Australia because of the communist China times, and they were shooting their own citizens. But my dad was one of those people. Regardless, long story short, I came to this country and I didn't have a relationship with my dad. So I moved out when I was 17, and the last time I saw him was actually when I opened the business. He came into my business, made a mess, did something I drunk, did something I didn't like, and I cut ties with him. So when I'm 22 was the last time I saw him, and I get a call. This was maybe a couple years ago, that he's on his deathbed. He's about to die, and he died the next day. So I didn't get the chance to. Not just I didn't really look. To be honest, there were no emotions for me at the time. I didn't have a relationship with my dad. But what I was mad about was I didn't have any closure for the sufferings that we all went through, right? And because of what I went through in my high school years, I went through like a lot of bullying, behind closed doors. I was, my dad was doing a lot of the physical abuse at the time behind closed doors. I didn't deal with this, and I became strong and I became resilient. And this just makes sense, right? How I fell in love with the gym. And you can probably connect the dots. People connect the dots when they're listening to this. And I thought that stress, the word that you mentioned, stress, was good. I thought that 1 gram of stress would equal 1 gram of positive result on the other end. Every action has an opposite reaction. I always thought of it this way, that people are successful because they went through trauma or they went through stress. It doesn't make sense when my father passed from alcoholism, and there were 3 people at his funeral, from what I understand. I wasn't there. I think it might have been his wife, his daughter, and maybe one other person. No one, I wasn't even known. This is, in short, what I'm trying to say is like, this is the most miserable life I have ever seen anyone live. All I ever wanted to do growing up as a kid is see my dad suffer, because he's made me suffer. I just wanted, and I look back at this and I go, my God, that's a hell of a miserable life that man lived. Where was his returns? Was my question at the end. And I look at my life. Sure, I've gone through some stuff that I used to blame he put me through. I love my life right now. I mean, forget the stress compared to what he went through. I love my life. I have a good relationship with mom. I have a great house. I'm married. I have fulfilling work. It's better than that by miles. But I don't think I suffered as much misery as him. So then it made me realize that, I mentioned this in one of our previous podcasts, but it hit me so hard that stress just means that we're not capable to deal with what's in front of us right now. It's a signal. There is no positive outcomes to stay in it. Now, I think a bonus from enduring stress all the time is you increase the tolerance of stress that you have. Sure. But other than that itself, there is no other benefits of that. So I think a better way to look at stress is you ask yourself, what resource, what knowledge do you need to be able to deal with what's ahead of you that you're struggling so much with? So stress, like I mentioned before, has 2 factors: the pressure that's put on you and your strength to carry it. I used to focus on the pressure. How am I going to run this business? I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to pay these bills. If you take that focus out from that and just look at it like, who would know the answer to these questions? Perhaps other business people? What books can I read? Or who can I call? Can I borrow some money from my family? I have no place to live. Would somebody put me out for a few weeks? So when you start to ask those questions, you realize, I can actually grow my roots a bit further out, and now I'm stronger to deal with this problem. This is why the problems that stress you out 10 years ago probably doesn't stress you out now because you've expanded your width, right? So to answer your question back on how to deal with growing this, something valuable and balancing personal life and stress is understanding that for the people that aren't very good at dealing with stress, I would say you have to get better at that. So stress is inevitable. If you want to accomplish anything, that's great. I don't know one person that hasn't, by definition, overcome stress, by overcome challenging stuff. But there are these other types of people like me that are addicted to stress. But that was literally making me sick and making everybody around me negative when it was me that was choosing to be in a stressed state. I could focus on the stuff that I had influence on. So my father dying was actually the lesson that I learned from that was, oh my God, look what happens if you remain in misery. Stress happens, pressure gets thrown at you, but it's up to you whether you want to stay and remain in that misery or not. It disconnected that stress means good things. Stress means good things. Stress is just a signal. That's all it is. So I would say, to answer the question, don't put unnecessary stress upon yourself, but understand that if you want to accomplish anything great, your ability to withstand stress has to be greater than the average person.
What would unnecessary stress be? Just as a curiosity.
Hope I can share this. Yeah, I can share this. All right, I'll give you an example. That I don't like. It was this happening yesterday. I was straight away look at something that I stressed what I did. Somebody has forwarded me. One of the team members forwarded me another business infringing our trademark. Using our trademark business name for us piggybacking some branding, which has nothing to do. It's completely breach of infringement. As the founder, like, what do you feel? Like, immediately you feel angry.
Yeah, right.
You rage. You go, how fucking dare you do this? My first thought was like, oh, fucking this person is gonna, like, I'm gonna go through my lawyers. I'm gonna contact them. It's probably gonna be a $2,000 bill. And then they're gonna have to have the cease and desist letter and send it to this guy. He's probably gonna have to then fight it. And before you know it, there's gonna be 5 figures of expenses. I'm probably gonna end up in court. That's stress, right? That's stress. This is how I would have dealt with this initially in my previous days. I would have been like, let me think about how I should draft this to the lawyers. And if that happens, let me prepare. Let me put 10 grand in this fund just to get ready for this war. Let me cancel all my appointments in the future months. I might have to, this is my number one focus. The mature me sort of came to mind and be like, dude, it's a small business owner. It's another small business owner. I know how search engine optimization works. I know how this stuff works. The guy probably didn't even know that whoever their guy was that did this. If I was in this position, what would you prefer to be interacting? I was like, well, I probably want to be reminded. So then I went on his website and I started to find an email, and I found an email, and I started the email by saying, hey man, I hope business is doing well and I love your website. But unfortunately, what I found, team has brought me to attention that you're infringing our trademark. Number one, did you know this? Second of all, I have a feeling you don't know this. Your website person probably did this without, they saw good clicks on our name. They probably just put this on your website.
Right.
I didn't want to go through lawyers. So could you solve this amicably and just take it off by today at this time? And all the best. Send that email. 2 hours later, the guy replies, Wayne, I'm so sorry. This was just some experiment they were doing. It's all being removed. I really appreciate that the way you handled this. I don't know, like, apologies again. Sorry for the trouble. The 2 examples that I gave is you could envision the worst outcome or you could envision the most likely outcome. I think 95% of the times, maybe even 99% of the times, your brain will give you a story that is not true and is far worse than what the likely outcome would be.
Yeah.
And then you go and prepare all of these contingencies based on the absolute worst outcome. The more conscientious you are, the more neurotic you are, the more likely you're able to go through this. The more trauma you went through in your early childhood, the more likely you are to try and protect yourself in these situations. Okay. But then I ask myself, what are the likelihood of that happening? if you're rational about this, it's probably not very high. And I proved that if I went through lawyers like that on my worst case scenario, that would have taken what the lawyers a week to draft that email, pay probably a 4-figure bill, send it over there for that guy to feel like, holy crap, what the hell? And then for them to do something, if anything, he was going to be more hostile in that case. When you could just, commit to the better outcome, but hey, maybe it's this. So it comes down to mindset and understanding that the old way of my coping mechanism and defending myself in tough times, maybe isn't needed anymore a lot of the times. So I find that by just not thinking about worst case scenarios all the time, removed at least 50% of my stress.
Okay, yeah. So I'm hearing it's not exactly what happens, but it's more over time you've learnt better ways to deal with these conflicts when they do arise, these stress-inducing events. You learn, it comes back to your capability scenario where you said you're more capable to handle these stress-inducing events. Like you used to react in a very heightened state, your cortisol levels would rise and you'd be like, all right, I'm thinking month down the line, and you almost attack the problem.
Yeah.
Instead, just coming at it with a positive mindset, I suppose, as bad as that word is. But you're just coming at it like, this isn't that bad. We'll see what happens.
Yes.
Let's just see how to hopefully amicably solve this.
Yes, that's right. It's you focus on, it's recognizing that you have, look, I think this is where like stress is inevitable when you're not very capable because everything is out of your realm. Like this happened, I don't know, 5 years ago, I probably wouldn't be as confident with this. But now I've got, lawyers that I've worked with many times. I've had similar stuff happen. I understand. I'm like, hey, like he's made a mistake here. You recognize the power. That's when you can be kind and you sort of like, it's not about me, is it? It's about this guy. Let me make sure that he's all right. Then this became a lot easier when you don't
get out of your own head.
Yeah, you're not from a place where I have to defend myself.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. I wonder, that's just a fresh example that I gave, but I genuinely think so much of stress is overemphasizing on the negative. Instead, like the stuff that I could always go through the lawyer route anyways if this was to not be solved. I can go through that route later on. Why don't we just focus on how to solve this problem quickly? So yeah, one massive source of stress for me back then when I was younger was always preparing things in the worst case scenario, and 99% of the times you will never need it. All that resource, stress, and effort has been put into something that you will never need, and you come out and be like, never needed that.
Fake it till you make it. What do you reckon about this? I feel like there's two sides to the coin on this.
Yeah.
Two opinions. That it's bollocks, that you shouldn't try and act like something you're not. You should own yourself. And then there's the other part that's like, you've got to, if you want to get paid for what you do, you better do more than what you paid for right now. You got to up your levels in your own headspace before you can actually do the things that you want to do. It's like if you want to be a professional athlete, you got to do what professional athletes do now, even though you're not a professional athlete.
Yeah, I just straight away when you said that, my head was going there. And also another term that came to mind was imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
Right? That's the word that's been thrown around quite frequently today. My opinion is going to be, again, more of a middle one. I feel like imposter syndrome right now. Like I'm 35, like giving people advice. Like I barely lived 35 years,
Yeah.
Giving people advice. Who am I to do this? That's imposter syndrome right there. But I'm not faking it. Right? This is just comes across in a genuine place. So,
but what about no? Let's not look at it now. Let's look at it when you were 22 and you felt like did you ever feel those insecurities where you're like, obviously, I feel like you do. Everyone goes through a bit of imposter syndrome at some point. Yeah. But did you feel like you're like, I've really got to put this on so I can develop the confidence to actually be it?
I felt like in my early 20s, I was doing that with staff members.
Oh, because they're like the same age as you a lot of the time, or maybe even older.
Younger, yeah. They're asking, Wayne, what do I do about this? I go, you see this? Just go and do it like this.
And you're just hoping, you're just like, yeah, that's probably
That
right.
was imposter syndrome. I was like, I've never
Yeah.
done this before neither.
Yeah.
So like that.
Yeah.
Duh. So what do you call that? I mean, I don't think I was faking it, but I didn't have the intent to fake it.
Mm.
It wasn't the intent. But normalizing that was like, dude, it's all right, man. Like, I don't know how to do this neither.
Yeah. It's kind of like Vin, the vocabulary coach, or the
Right, yeah.
whatever his name is. Yeah, he goes like, if you want to actually be more confident and be able to articulate better and express things better, then you actually have to go out and express things better. You can't just hope it happens. You've got to try and eventually you get better at it.
Yeah.
You can't just hope it happens. You got to fake it, even if it feels forced.
Yeah.
Does that mean it's fake, or are you're just trying to develop the skill? You're trying to rewire certain neurons. Yeah, until you're really like, okay, I embody this.
It comes down to definitions, right? Of what you mean by faking what, or imposter.
I feel like it's all about the personality things. I'm not saying people should go out and act like they're like make false claims.
Yeah.
Where they're like, I made $1 billion and I'm going to teach you guys how to do it.
Yeah.
That's a false claim.
Yes.
But you can go out and develop certain skills, like your personal skills. So personality-wise, if you want to develop more confidence, you have to actually actively try and be more confident, I feel. You can't just eventually be really confident.
Yeah.
Out of thin air.
Yeah, if you want confidence.
But if you're thrown into a leadership position as well and you feel like you're an imposter syndrome, you feel like you're not ready to lead, how do you really develop the skills of a leader? Do you have to fake it till you make it?
Well, let's look at it as just on that, right? If you've been put into a challenging position and that you're not confident enough in dealing with, so now you go, do I fake it? I pretend like I'm confident, or do I go, ooh, I can't do it?
Yeah.
Right?
Do you shy away? Yeah.
You shy away from it. I would say that, all right, I don't like the word fake it because you can communicate that, like, lie. That's not what we're saying.
No.
What we're saying is you will need evidence, right? You will need evidence that you can do something. You need to be confident about something before you're confident about this. So the problem actually didn't start at this challenge. So I would say that I think when you're a kid, you're not confident about anything because you haven't done anything. But when I was younger, I was really confident that I could jump really high. So I must be okay at basketball. And so I worked hard at that. But from that, you realize, oh, I'm also confident in this. So I rephrasing a lot of these very successful people, they always link confidence with competence. You know, and with competence, you kind of need evidence of doing. So that if you want to upgrade anything, that challenge itself, you've never dealt with it before. So I wouldn't say that you're faking it at that point, but you use previous evidence that you've dealt with similar things, maybe not quite as big, but having that willingness to take the risk to do it anyways, and have the openness to fail that if it is. But you got to rise up to the challenge. I don't want to use the word as fake it. You can't, because when you say that, people have this thing where I got to fake it. When they fake something, it doesn't come across as genuine, right? It doesn't come across as like, oh, I'm faking it. So even if it is, like, fine, if you're looking to look at it like fake it till I make it, but at least don't tell yourself that you're faking it. You have previous evidence that I can do this. And if you don't have evidence, I reckon you should go back and find some. I'm sure you can find some evidence. If you've got literally no evidence, well, can you vacuum the house? You should be confident that you can vacuum the house, right? So that any little thing.
Yeah, I do get what you're saying, but what if they've never done it? Like that just seems too out of left field though, vacuuming. Like if I've never ridden a bike, I'm not going to be able to ride a bike very well the first time I get on.
But you can ride it with training wheels, right?
But is getting on and being like, all right, I'm going to ride a bike. Is it, I guess it's not faking it till you make it, but it's trying to acquire the skill.
Yeah. Well,
and when you change that and you go, all right, well, if I want to be better communicator or a better leader, the only way to do it is to really get into those scenarios where you are a leader, right?
Okay, then I guess true. But I guess what we're saying is like, if that step is too big though.
Yeah.
On the bike thing.
Where you do feel like you're faking it, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
So on the bike thing, if before you ride a bike, I'm just thinking back from when I first learned how to ride a bike, I think my bike either had training wheels or somebody was holding the handlebars while I was. That was the first time. Because when I had no evidence I could ride a bike, if you just tell me to ride it, that's probably a bad recipe. I'll injure myself. But I would, a responsible parent would probably just hold the handlebars or put some training wheels on and tell you to be like, hey, do this. And eventually do it long enough. You go, well, I haven't ridden a real bike, but I have this. So I would suggest people that we should always constantly challenge ourselves to do something we haven't done before, but there needs to be some sort of evidence that you've taken a step. It's like what you said, small goals over big goals, isn't it? So just from someone that's never done any kind of business to say that I made $1 billion, that is faking it.
It's faking. But when it feels unnatural, it feels like you're forcing it and it feels like you're faking it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you almost have to get in that mindset where you're really putting yourself not so far out of your comfort zone, but enough to where it does feel unnatural, because that's where the progress is.
I think just call it out.
It's just like getting out of your comfort zone.
Yeah, I will just seriously, okay, if a young staff member comes up to me and then I give them a task that they can't deal with, I can see if they're faking it. I can you can see that. But if they come to me and go, wait, this is so challenging. Like, I'm honest, if I'm being honest, I'm so scared right now in doing this, but I'm going to take the challenge. If you trust me with this, I'm not saying that I will ace this, but I'll give every ounce of my soul. And if I break it, I'll fix it for you. Can I take this task? I would give the task to this person more than the person that go, yeah, I've done this before. Don't worry, I've got this. I will take that over the other one. So I want them to understand the weight of this over someone that just goes, don't worry, it's not a big deal. So whatever that means to people.
I get you. How did you deal with imposter syndrome?
As in myself or like other people?
You.
Myself. I just called it out. I remember this reminds me of that time when the second gym that I opened, I was struggling to get the lease, even though I wasn't 22 anymore, but I was still in my 20s. And big landlord, his building's a lot bigger. And yeah, I had some business experience, but it wasn't enough for them. So I had to go in and I had to say, let's call him Jimmy. Hey, Mr. Jimmy.
Mr. Jimmy.
Look, I know I haven't done much. I know that you've got other people coming in that are like seasoned business people. I have this. I'm happy to show you what I've built, but I can tell you that I built every bit of that business. And if it breaks, I know how to fix it. So you're in good hands. This is actually essentially what I said. And this is what he took over someone else's throwing more money at him, because he liked the honesty and he liked if I just went in and be like, oh, listen, man, like, you'd be right. I've done this plenty of times. He's 72, man. The guy's going to be able to read me like a book. I can't fake it to people that's really made it. So you just got to be able to call it out honestly as it is. And over time, he's like, how old are you? I'm 26, 28. Very good what you're doing. That's how I did that imposter syndrome. I did walk in with confidence.
Yeah.
I shook it. I remember the moment they came to shake. It's just he was an old man. And I remember thinking that, I've got to be confident. Shake his hand with confidence. Was I confident? No. I guess I did imposter in that. Like, I wasn't as confident as I looked.
Yeah.
Definitely. But I didn't lie and said that I've done this plenty of times. I've done it once, but I'm confident I can do it twice. I was pretty honest when it came to that.
Yeah. I feel like imposter syndrome is like when you're receiving accolades, recognition, and from other people specifically, but you yourself don't feel like you're necessarily deserving. You don't see your capabilities as being up to the level of what other people put your standard as. And so you start thinking like, am I really this good? Am I really good enough to be here? Like, let's say you got a managerial position even or something like that. And you're just thinking, wow, I'm in over my head here. How did I end up here? I feel like everyone, even on any level, goes through some sort of imposter syndrome.
Do you think so? So, okay, let me just...
100%. Yeah, 100%.
Was it honest? If their achievements were honest and they actually got there and there were no lies and...
Yeah.
Would they actually feel like, I don't deserve all of this?
No, it's not deserve all of it. It's more like you don't see your capabilities as meeting up to it. It's not that you don't deserve it, because the market is the market. It's just whatever you receive is what you've put in. There's a equal and opposite reaction. So if you're providing enough value, you're going to receive certain things. But it's more like in the back of your head, and it's not like a recurrent current theme. It's just like you feel like you're not certain. And I think you said this as well. You said this previously.
Yeah, I'm trying to
that
experience that myself.
Most people just don't know what's going on anyway.
Yeah.
Like you realize like most people are still just trying to figure it out.
Well, if you're putting it that way, then I think it's normal then.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I feel like it is normal. And it's a necessary process. I think whenever you do make, because it's like raising your temperature and your personal gauge just hasn't caught up yet.
Right.
Does that make sense?
It does, but I wouldn't. Okay, I think I know where you're getting from, but I think the way I see it is that's pretty normal.
That's what I'm saying.
Because at some stage, it's going to feel a little bit out of temperature. As long as that temperature is not a huge increase, because if you actually have done the work, it might be that you're receiving you might have done the work at 27 degrees, and this recognition feels 28, and it's okay. I mean, but if you lie and cheat your way to success, you might have been at 15 and you got a 30-degree reward, and that's when you got to know how to act. Well, I don't. So that's not common. Usually, you sort of have an idea of like, I did do all this, didn't I?
Yeah.
And so when I got the recognition in that particular landlord, is like, hey, just so you know, I gave you the lease because of I like who you are as a person.
Yeah,
I did. I received. I was like, oh, thanks, man. I really appreciate that because I worked hard for this. Like, man, I wasn't confident. I came into you, so that was like, oh, I really appreciate it. But at that moment, I had to, because if you're not confident about yourself, like, the other person's not going to be confident.
Oh
about
yeah,
you.
100%.
And so there is that. So if that's what imposter syndrome is, then I guess it's being talked about too negatively. I
don't think it's that bad. I think it's a common process that you most people will battle at one point or another.
Yeah. I still, if you're thinking about it like that, I still feel like that now, I guess, in some ways. Where a lot of the staff members would, just in normal conversation, they would say, Wayne, from your, like, from what we see you, like, you're so far away from us. Oh, really? What do you mean, man? Like, I come to the gym, I use the gym, and I was where you were, like yesterday. I know it's been like 12 years, but it felt like yesterday. So even, like, could that be an imposter syndrome? I feel like,
I think possibly.
That's
like reverse imposter syndrome.
But I also feel like maybe I'm not deserving this thing that you're putting me on a pedestal for. Like that, but it's not, I wouldn't lie, I would never go and lie and fake something and say that I've done this before when I haven't. That's, I wouldn't do that.
No, actually you said something really good before. You said that you were almost too busy to even consider imposter syndrome in some sense.
Yeah.
Like when you were like, I can't even recognize how hard or how bad this is. I've just got to get my head stuck in the work. Like you're too busy to have the opportunity to experience imposter syndrome.
Yeah, you're
figuring it out. You're deciding like I'm going to figure it out. I don't have to stop and say, am I an imposter? Is this even going to work out? I'm just going to do everything I can to try and make it work out.
It's a really good point because I'm literally bringing myself, because if you're thinking imposter syndrome, right? Like you're literally rephrasing people when they're in their early 20s about to do their first thing. They don't have any evidence. Yeah, so that's why I was thinking, I've never really felt like, because I never had time to imposter because I have no choice.
Well, I feel like once you start, if you really want it to be good, you can't have any second thoughts. Yeah, you just got to, I'm doing it. What do you mean?
There's a rental invoice I got to pay tomorrow. I got to go and get business. Like it's no time to think that I wasn't, hey, gym's not really good. I'm kind of new. Okay, that thought never registered, I guess, to stop me. So I guess you could say that if you have time to feel like imposter syndrome, it's probably in hindsight maybe.
And for these people, I think it potentially comes down to a little bit of a lack of confidence in the act and the abilities. But eventually over time, there's an inevitable stack of proof that you've done what you've done. But you've got to keep doing it. I think when you do stop, and that's where the excuses kind of kick in and you start to think, should I even be doing this? Am I capable?
I honestly reckon phrase it like because we're like gym people, maybe this is where I can't relate to as much as this. Like people like me and you, all the members that go to the gym, we have so much evidence of personal achievement on our personal level.
Yeah.
So you walk around. I mean, this is our norm. Like I'm going to the gym 4 or 5 days a week, training probably an hour a day. I used to train like 3 hours. So for me now, this is really not all that high performance. But compared to the general public at my age, especially when my friends have kids, like their kids call me like the Rock. I make fun of it like the Wok, like the Asian Rock, the Wok. So anyway, but my point is like, my point
That's
is like that's like evidence, right?
Mm.
So I think going to the gym is a metaphor for a lot of this.
Mm.
And I just do remember, this constant thought that when I'm impostering to level up in business, these guys can't do what I do on a barbell. I mean, he might be 72, he might know business, but I reckon he was never lifting as much as me. There's stuff that you did. So that's what I mean by evidence. It doesn't have to be the same as what this other guy has done, but your own version. I mean, for you, it could be editing videos, could be getting views on your content. There's got to be something that gives them confidence.
Yeah. So if it is a confidence issue, if it's a confidence issue, it comes down to finding some sort of skill or activity that you can get really good at.
Yeah.
I think that's an amazing way to get confident. You just pick something
Yeah.
and you decide over the next year, I'm going to get good at it.
Yeah.
And you'll gain confidence.
And you don't have to know how to do this thing.
No.
But you've done all these other things, you know?
It proves your ability to actually make progress and decide to start something and decide to get good at it and know that you can. And I think the gym's a perfect reflection of that because it is it's linear. There's ups and downs, but it is, you work out 5 days a week doing the right things. In a year, you will be able to lift so much more weight, especially if you're just starting.
This is why we're so passionate about this.
Yeah. It's a perfect reflection.
It's literally the definition and proof every day you have agency to be able to change your life. Anyway, wrapping back around this whole thing, right? The best way on this whole imposter syndrome, if you're phrasing this in a way that, hey, if you're given an opportunity when you don't think you're ready, should you take it or not? All right, so the scene that comes back to me, Pursuit of Happiness, Will Smith, one of my favorite movies, Pursuit of Happiness, the part where he's trying to be a stockbroker, right? And then he goes to a job interview after being released from jail in like freaking like crappy clothes around people with suits, and people are looking at him like, just what is this guy doing here? He wasn't going to get that job. That's pure imposter syndrome, right? Like, not even that you've never done the job before. You're actually underdressed.
Yeah, he's literally an imposter.
You're outclassed, right?
Yeah.
So he's feeling it. He's dirting like, oh my God, like I don't know how am I gonna get this job here. And then they look at him, he goes, it wasn't cutting it. And then he finished this meeting with one thing that he said, I think is the perfect to answer this question. He says, I'm the type of person that if I don't know the answer to something, I'm going to tell you I don't know, but I am going to find out. I think that's not impostering because he believes that he can find the answer, but he's not lying to say that I know how to do this. So people bet on you, not the skills and experience that you have. That's just like another evidence. But I think authenticity and character, I think that for me, if I'm picking, I'm always betting on people with the letter.
Yeah, I get you. It's an interesting one though, because as you said, he was technically an imposter in the sense of like the dress, he's disheveled, hasn't shaved probably or whatever. He's just coming out of jail.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's a good for people who don't necessarily feel confident. I know that exterior and everything is not everything. I think it comes down to skill set. But for you to just garner a little bit of confidence to kind of step out there, it's like if you're going in a professional setting and you're not wearing a suit and everyone else is wearing a suit, you're probably going to feel out of place. So I suppose it's kind of making those little upfront investments of, you go get a nice haircut or you make sure you're clean shaven or whatever it might be so that you can show up and feel good about yourself.
Yes.
It's like the whole concept of like looking good, feeling good. Yeah. So work on yourself a little bit, personal development. I don't know, just develop, it's like the self-confidence factor. And then I feel like you'll be more happy to show up in places where you probably don't feel like you should be showing up.
Yeah, and just the weird thought I'm thinking about this, right? What about an advice that, okay, if you're not feeling confident or if you feel like you're impostering in that situation, why don't you bring up something that you are confident about? Because what Will Smith said in that role, Chris Gardner, by the way, that's a real story.
Yeah.
If that part was real, what he said, because when he said, but I am going to find the answer, he was confident, right? So he wasn't confident to say that I already know all of this, but he's confident in saying that I can find the answer because he's obviously had proof enough to convince himself. And people can see what's real and what's not. So I guess you don't have to be confident about the top. That's why you're climbing up. You're literally going up. You've never been there before. But you can go back onto the next best thing that you're confident in doing. I think call that out.
Trust your capability to continue to make the progress. To put a button in it, just curious, what would be your one piece of advice to young people who want to become more capable?
Will be the advice that I will give to myself at 36 to 25. It's very simple. Enjoy the process more. That'll be the advice I give. And what I mean by that is if you're cursed with ambition, like many of us are, you're probably always feeling like you're not enough all the time. You're doing something just not good enough. But you also know that is literally how you get better, is feeling like you're not good enough. I look back at this, I just wish I would have enjoyed a lot of these processes a lot more, like all these stressful situations I went through, like being locked, having to sell my house. Now I bought one that's twice as good. So you just, at the time, you don't know the positives out of this. Fuck, if I knew this was going to happen, I would have treated that year or two like the Rocky fight scene.
Yeah, right.
You know how
Got
cool
excited
is that?
about it. You'd be like, yeah, hell yeah.
This is the story I'm going to tell in 2 years.
Yeah.
But instead, I'm there going, this is so sad. So my only advice is that, hey, the good and the bad, especially the bad, learn to enjoy that. That's the good part.